Well, my notes just say insert intro here with no extra help, so, no, screw that, no formal intro. What's up? If you don't know me as a person, then all you need to know is that I don't know a ton of things, but sometimes I like to combine my interests, and I actually decided to time-lapse me drawing one for once. Also, this commentary might not be for you if you don't know anything about Pathfinder 2nd edition, because I can't stand my own voice long enough to explain the premise, so I'm sorry. So, about half a year after Resident Evil 8 released, I somehow got really attached to Donna Beneviento, basically overnight. I don't know how or why, but I'm living with that burden. And a little while before that, the Secrets of Magic book for the tabletop system Pathfinder 2nd edition released, and at some point, my little noggin just connected two and two and was like, hey, if Lady Beneviento was a player character, what would her class be? And my knee-jerk reaction at the time was Summoner, right? With the Secrets of Magic still fresh on the news front and her semi-psychic link to Angie practically screaming Eidolon. But then I started thinking about it a little bit more, and I kind of saw other possibilities, and that's basically what I'm gonna drone about. So I draw little lists on the screen and shit, but my editing skills and the basic Windows video editor thingy aren't quite up to that caliber, so you're just gonna have to remember what I'm saying in your brain if you care. So what I've scribbled down in the end was 3 rough builds, the Summoner, the Wizard, and the Inventor. Keep in mind that I've only ever GM'd Pathfinder as well, so while I have a fairly good idea of how the rules and that work, I've never actually built a character to properly play. I mean, sure, I have NPCs built within sort of the player rule set just to try it out, but even then, you kind of build them in mind that you want their turns to be quick and straightforward, rather than wasting your player's time combing through their spells or some niche racial feats. Also, before I forget, the full time-lapse is in the description, without commentary, because I've cut out a lot of line working, and, the full video was 45 minutes, which is way too long. It's because my pressure sensitivity doesn't work, so I basically have to go over my line work 2 or 3 times for the right weighting, which eats up a ton of time, and no one needs to see that. I don't want to see that, and I was the one who did it. But anyway, I'm rambling. First build, the one I've already mentioned, the Summoner. We're going to do this pros and cons style, lads, so pros first. It's by far the best class, in my humble onion, to match the synergy between sort of Angie and Donna, plus the respectable Eidolon stat block means that Angie is more than just a proper mouthpiece, although she can still be a mouthpiece if she wants. Angie gets hurt, so does Donna, and Donna gets hurt, so does Angie. Originally I'd actually penciled Angie in as a devotion phantom Eidolon, and I think that's in fact, that's what I've ended up drawing, because Lady Beneviento is practically radiating, occult caster vibes, and I think it's quite sweet that Angie's devotion is Donna's well-being. But upon browsing the archives again, construct Eidolons are equally, if not more, viable. My only gripe with them is that they're medium by default, whereas devotion phantoms can be small or medium. So if you pick construct, until 4th level, when you can eventually pick up the shrink down evolution feat, Angie is going to be Donna-sized. Which is kind of hilarious, to be honest. I won't really put that as a con, it's just kind of funny. In terms of genuine cons, though, I mean, listen, Summoners are a charisma class, and baby ain't got no charisma to save her life. This can be worked around, though, with the concept of charisma being force of personality, and, she can kind of be intimidating. I do kind of find it funny that Summoners get the meaty 10 plus con to HP as well, when physically Lady Beneviento died to a pair of scissors. Maybe she just hadn't had a long rest in a while. Moving on, and we've got the Wizard. With our nerd class, you can really hone in on sort of the hallucinogenic aspect of her powers. And naturally, her school specialization would be illusion. I haven't thought about it too deeply about what her bonded item would be, but she kind of strikes me as a glass orb kind of girl, you get me? I mean, tell me if not, I don't really know. You could argue that the other prepared intelligence caster, the Witch, could work, especially if her patron let her cast occult spells rather than arcane. But that would mean Mother Miranda would probably be her patron, and I don't want that woman anywhere near Donna. Alternatively, the Kadu itself could be a patron, but I'm not sure how that would further impact her psyche. It just kind of really depends how angsty you want this build to be. Pros of a witch, though, is that they do give you familiars by default. And speaking of, her arcane thesis would maybe be improved familiar attunement, but that leads me to the main con, that being that the familiar system just doesn't do Angie's sentience any justice, like in any way at all. Imagine Donna having to decide every day whether she being Angie, has manual dexterity rights, or like independent thinking, or the ability to speak at all. Like, Angie deserves better. Whether you like her or not, I guess. Whatever. Moving on. Finally, it's the Inventor, and this class actually leans into a side of Donna I'd personally like to see more of, although, I'm trying to keep this unbiased. It does give us a pretty solid form of Angie, assuming that we're taking the construct innovation. Once again, I'm very happy that small is a possible size option by default, and like Angie gets so many immunities with her shiny new construct trait. You got the bleed, disease, necromancy, poison, doom, drain, fatigue, paralyzed, sicken, so on. I've probably missed a few. You could argue that being an inventor, it could also make her a possible alchemist as well. I know I've definitely seen some fan theories of her like dabbling in botany and poisons and whatnot. And I mean, sure, I won't stop you. I just pulled the inventor vibes from her workshop, that's all. But cons-wise, it's a lot more martial than the other classes, which doesn't vibe with her as much. In fact, I think she's basically the only boss that doesn't fight you one-on-one. Also, constantly using Angie as a first line of defense doesn't seem that in character, especially with the risk and reward of some of the inventor mechanics, like the overdrive function. Additionally, Angie, being a construct, will have the mindless trait, which again doesn't do her sentience much justice. Like, I guess fine, you could argue that she may have low intelligence and or wisdom, but in no world does she have less charisma than Donna. Also, she's not mature enough to, like, not respond to mental effects like coerce or demoralize. She's gonna argue against you. If you've made it this far, thanks for a start. I've spent so much of my time just wrestling with the voice recording app on my phone, and I know for sure that some parts are going to sound louder, some are quieter, and I don't have the expertise to, like, make this a nice listening experience. So, I applaud your perseverance. Let's just fucking move on to the conclusion, and that being what I've actually ended up drawing, utilizes the dual class variant rule for a summoner / wizard to capitalize on both her powers and Angie's capabilities. Sorry, I've had to say that like 5 times, so I didn't want to fuck it up again. I mean, also, yeah, she's a lord. She's allowed to be a little bit stronger than usual, and in this case it means having 2 classes. Also, I nearly forgot that summoners and their eidolons have to have like a matching sigil to link the 2 of them together, so I just kind of did a very basic floral looking thing because I didn't want to draw the crest again. I have nothing against it, I just didn't feel like doing it again. Regarding the actual build itself, the first thing I noticed was, oh shit, both her primary classes are spellcasting ones. Which one do you focus on? And I mean, it's a dual class. First of all, you don't really focus on one. But there was a point where I sat and thought, well, what's the point of dual classing into Wizard? Summoners can already cast. But although they can cast, their bounded spellcasting system doesn't lend itself to Argal's range of powers like the traditional Wizard spell system. They have 2 slots always at their highest level of spell slot, and Donna just doesn't strike me as someone who always busts out the big guns on day 1. I'm rambling a little bit here. Let's just move on to the next point. In the meantime, I think it's best for Inventor to be demoted to an archetype with the construct reflavoured as just sort of a generic doll to make the most of the class's creativity and Donna's likely hesitance to like actually damage Angie. With said Angie now being as a construct or phantom eidolon, this frees up your arcane thesis to, I don't know, take up spell substitution maybe. I'm not a wizard expert. I think that one might help out in a pinch, or at least a short rest, or the equivalent of a short rest, the 10-minute downtime thing. Also slightly sideways note, but I love this phrasing of summoners regaining their focus points by, quote, specifically connecting with your eidolon, such as having a heart-to-heart conversation, playing together, or meditating in unison on the nature of your bond. Like, that's so sweet. Big alternative to all of this is just to have Angie as like a separate character, which is practically what the Poppet race exists for. In terms of Poppet heritages, by flavour, I'm pretty sure Toy Match is her best, but it forces her to be tiny. Wishbone Poppet could also maybe work. I need a Poppet expert to come in, basically anyone who's not me. The problem is, this method of having them as two separate characters does make it a lot harder to narrate Lady Beneviento and Angie's link. One thing I could think of was maybe sort of a crit success heart bond ritual that could sort of help, but it does seem a little lackluster. I'm sure there's plenty of other rituals or like semi-permanent spell effects or even items to sort of help simulate the effect, but it all seems like a little artificial, if you feel me. I'm also having a hard time imagining Angie as anything but a barbarian, which is a little bit more than biased, so you know, I could do with a neutral source helping me there. But yeah, no, that's the end of my thoughts. I'm once again going to emphasise that I'm not an expert on this in any sense, and nor can I guarantee that this will be a fun build to play, but I think that it might be, you know. I don't really know where I'm going from here. The script kind of ends. Shit. You know, I'll be doing more of these in the future, possibly, maybe, depending on my time. It'll be more Donna variants because I keep coming up with ideas, and, you know, the weekends really aren't long enough for me to sit down and draw, but if any of you are Pokemon fans, you know, I hope to do that one next. Thanks, also, shout out to Spork for putting up with my bullshit whenever I message you about this kind of thing. That's all I've got to say. Peace.